week's episode of One Piece, the Straw Hat Pirates, the Mink Tribe, the Samurai, and the Ninja prepare for their ultimate adventure as they break up into various groups to protect the island of Zou, look for Marco the Phoenix, reclaim the Wano Kingdom, and retrieve Sanji from the evil clutches of Big Mom. And to top it all off, a classic One Piece character reappears to reinvigorate the series as the next arc officially begins. Let's get the elephant out of the room, and I am not talking about Zunisha. Nami's breasts are absolutely ridiculous in this week's episode. It's not something that I would normally bring attention to, but in this week's episode, Nami is presented with a brand new weapon, an upgraded version of her Clima-Tact, thanks to the engineering skills of Usopp and Frankie. And while the weapon is incredibly cool with the ability to extend just like the power pole from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, it really is just an excuse to show Nami hanging around a giant stripper pole. That and the fact that just the camera angles that they use on her freaking breasticles is just insane. Ultimately, this episode just seemed like an excuse to show off Nami's rockin' tits. That being said, her brand new Clima-Tact is pretty cool. I love the fact that it's not just broken up into 3 pieces now, and she's able to actually extend it at her will. It also has a few other new abilities, upgraded versions of her Mirage ability, which allows her to basically become completely invisible, the perfect weapon for a capable thief. The rest of this week's episode is dedicated to seeing what the various groups are going to be doing. There's going to be a few people who are going to be staying behind on the island of Zou, pretty much all of the Mink Tribe members so that they can protect it from anybody who wants to take down Zunisha the giant elephant. You have Nekomamushi, who in his group they're going after Marco the Phoenix, and then you have Usopp, Zoro, Nico Robin, Frankie, Kinemon, and the other samurai who are going to be going back to the Wano Kingdom to get some brand new allies and prepare for the return of Luffy and Sanji. And that brings us to the A-Team, which is going to consist of Luffy, Nami, Brook, Pedro, and Chopper, who are going to be going after Sanji, and it also looks like they're going to be dragging Pekoms along for the ride as well. It is interesting that Pedro is going to be the Mink Tribe member who's going to be coming along. A lot of this has to do with the fact that he has some sort of strong connection with Pekoms, or at least he's one of the few members of the Mink Tribe who can actually control his extreme and ridiculous outbursts. But of course, there's a little bit more to Pedro than meets the eye, but we're just going to have to wait to see that happen. But I'm really glad that he's going to be along for the ride. And avid viewers will probably also notice that Carrot is somewhat absent from this episode. I wonder why that is. I especially loved how this episode ended when they decided to break up in their various groups and Luffy just grabbed all of his friends and jumped over the side of the elephant. It's like, we're done with the Zou arc, let's go! Jump off the elephant, it's game time. However, there is one scene at the very end of this episode that's going to get a lot of people talking and bring a lot of excitement to the series, because it looks like a classic One Piece character is going to be returning, and that, of course, is Vivi the Princess of the Alabasta Kindgom, which is arguably one of the most popular arcs from the series, and honestly the arc where I start to feel that One Piece started to come into its own a little bit. And Vivi might as well be a Straw Hat Pirate. She was with the group that long, she formed such a strong connection with them, and she's going to be a part of this brand new arc which is coming up, where her and a lot of other kingdoms are getting ready to meet for this big event which is known as Reverie. For more on that, make sure to check out the preview for the next episode, and of course tune in for next week's, although I have a feeling that we're probably going to get a big flashback from the Alabasta arc in next week's episode if the preview is any indication. That being said, what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece? Nami's boobs, 5 out of 5, check it out! Honestly, there is a little bit more to this episode aside from Nami's ridiculously awesome rack. There are a lot of great farewells with the other members of the Mink Tribe who all want to really help out the Straw Hats. They're all begging to go along on their journey, but ultimately it is Pedro who's going to be joining them on their most important mission to go back and get Sanji. Pedro is a character who I really think is going to grow on people as this arc is going to go on, as we are going to start learning a little bit more about his backstory and what his relationship is to Pekoms and of course the rest of the Mink Tribe as well, why he's respected so much even by Nekomamushi. Really though, this episode though was just basically a build-up for the next arc and just showing us which teams are going to be with which, where they're going to be going, what they're going to be doing. And despite the fact that it basically just seemed like an excuse for extreme fan service, I did love when Nami got her brand new weapon. It was really funny when she overreacted at first and made the weapon weapon way too long when she was swinging it around and basically nearly knocking the block off of every single Mink Tribe member. It was just a really funny scene. It was just also very, very fan-servicey, which, you know, I mean, what would Nami even be without her breasts at this point? I mean, every single time they introduce her into something, they usually start from the chest. I was rewatching One Piece Film Z the other day with a couple of friends who never had an opportunity to see it, and they introduce her in the film by focusing right on her giant jugs. It's just her defining characteristic, outside of her being a great thief and a navigator. The best thing about this episode, of course, is that the Zou arc is done. No more wasting time, no more dragging things out. We're finally moving to the next arc of the series. And overall, I think the series did a pretty good job with the Zou arc. They adapted it pretty perfectly. They added a lot to some of the brand new characters, and even showing us how Zunisha was saved. And they did it in a fairly timely manner. I'm glad that we didn't spend too much time here. They didn't do what they did in the whole Punk Hazard arc, where they just made it way too long for its own good, just constantly watching kids run down hallways. This one was a lot more distinctive, and it really helped that a lot of the characters had really unique designs. The fact that they were all basically half human, half animal people saved it a lot. I really hope that Chopper eventually will meet his dream woman again. I'm officially shipping the two together. What I will say is, this episode was a lot of fun and super fan-servicey, and a great cap-off to the end of the Zou arc. So I'm going to give this episode right here a solid 4 out of 5. Check it out, One Piece fans! If any of you guys did watch this episode, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. Did you like this episode? Did you not like this episode? What did you think of Nami's brand new weapon? What do you think the various teams are going to do when they go off on their own adventures? And what do you think about the return of Vivi? Are you excited to see the return of that character? Do you still have the X tattoo? Are your eyes tearing up from memories of the Alabasta arc? What do you want to see from the rest of the One Piece anime series? Please tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things One Piece related, whether they be anime or manga reviews. Please leave me a comment or two. I'd love to talk with you guys. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with all your friends. I'd really appreciate it. So I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.